silver cracked lower as oil's weekly surge rattled inflation bets, and central banks kept gold on the radar. That's the dominant theme closing out this Friday session. Coming up, a full evening wrap across metals, equities, energy, and Forex, with a look at how silver, the S&P 500, Bitcoin, and more traded through the day. A key consumer sentiment reading landed on the calendar today, and the symbol-by-symbol read is straight ahead. Stay with us. Across markets this Friday, sterling made headlines moving against a firmer dollar as Federal Reserve rate expectations stayed elevated, following comments from Dallas Fed President Logan calling for modestly higher interest rates. Oil extended its weekly surge amid U.S.-Iran strike exchanges, pushing inflation concerns higher and weighing on gold, which is on course for a weekly decline. Euro area inflation was confirmed to have eased slightly in June, while Goldman Sachs noted central bank demand continues to provide a floor for gold prices. On the currency side, the Indian rupee came under pressure as the renewed U.S.-Iran conflict and elevated oil prices stoked fresh risk-off flows. The key events on the calendar today were U.S. Prelim University of Michigan consumer sentiment and inflation expectations, alongside remarks from President Trump. Silver closed the Friday session with the strong bearish trend firmly in control, price action pressing toward lower levels as inflation concerns driven by the oil spike weighed on the metal's appeal. The structure of lower highs throughout the day keeps the path of least resistance pointed lower, and that trend shows no sign of exhausting while these conditions hold. MasterCard finished the session with its strong bullish trend well supported, the price action holding constructive and leaning toward higher levels as broader equity resilience underpinned the name. The trend structure remains pointed higher, and the market looks more likely to extend that move toward higher levels while this momentum holds. Bitcoin wrapped up the Friday session under bearish pressure, the trend leaning lower as risk sentiment stayed cautious across the crypto space amid elevated inflation concerns following the oil surge. Price action kept the structure of lower levels in place, and the market looks more likely to probe further lower levels while that tone persists. The S&P 500 closed Friday with its bullish trend intact, the index holding higher ground and showing the market's inclination to extend toward higher levels despite the inflation-driven cross-currents from energy markets. As long as the trend structure holds, the path of least resistance continues to lean higher. Adobe ended the session with a bearish tone, price action maintaining a structure of lower levels as tech selling pressure, a theme that ran through European and U.S. trade today, continued to bear down on the stock. The trend keeps the market oriented lower, and extending toward lower levels looks like the more probable outcome while that pressure remains. GE closed Friday with its bullish trend in good shape, the price action leaning toward higher levels and showing resilience relative to the broader industrials backdrop. The trend structure remains constructive, keeping the market's probable path pointed toward higher levels while that momentum stays in place. U.S. oil wrapped up the week on a mild bearish note at the session level, even as the weekly trend showed a sharp surge driven by the U.S.-Iran conflict, with some intraday fading, suggesting near-term profit-taking pressure toward lower levels. The mild, bearish session trend keeps the probability slightly tilted toward lower levels in the near term. Dollar Canada closed the Friday session with a mild, bullish trend for the pair overall, though the probable path leans toward lower levels as dollar weakness across the board and oil strength supported the Canadian dollar through the day. The structure suggests the market is more likely to work toward lower levels, while those macro forces remain in play. The Dow closed Friday with a mild bullish trend intact on the broader structure, yet the session's probable path kept leaning toward lower levels as inflation concerns from the oil surge and Fed commentary applied overhead pressure. The market looks more likely to test lower levels near term while that tension between the bullish backdrop and macro headwinds persists. That is the ForexBullion evening wrap for Friday the 17th of July, 2026. If this breakdown added value to your trading day, hit subscribe to keep the daily reads coming. This is general market information for educational purposes only, not financial advice.